difference in terms of the risk appetite. The other KYC is know your cities. You know, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. There are differences when you position yourself. The third KYC is know the culture, right? The culture, the North culture is different from the South culture. Also the languages. There are localizations that you need to do in order to be able to position yourself better and attract those investors to be your customer.
So from the perspective of the Bitcoin cryptocurrency industry, I think the main important factor to consider now is regulation, because in China and also in Japan now, you have a lot of scrutiny from either the central banks or the regulators, which means that they're in the process of designing guidelines, which will also affect, how are you going to define the products that you're selling? Is Bitcoin defined as currency? Is it defined as a sort of digital commodity? So based on what these governments decide that you should be classifying this asset as, will affect how you market this. And what we're seeing now with China, with the PBOC talking on a regular basis with the exchanges, it means that that they really want to make these exchanges aware that they won't be able to get away with marketing practices that focus too much on the rewards of Bitcoin versus the risks, and putting a lot of educational materials to make sure that there is this risk sort of awareness amongst the user base. So the regulation is definitely going to be something that anybody trying to market in this industry should be well aware of and be up to date with. The other thing is also the general lack of education amongst the investor base, specifically in China, but also in other, let's say, promising markets like Japan. Because still people don't have a good understanding of what Bitcoin is, what is the value of Bitcoin, why is Bitcoin a certain price, or even if you look at other cryptocurrencies or other blockchain assets which have properties similar to a digital equity or something looking more like digital gold. So I think education will be something that all companies in our industry will have to focus on a lot, whether that's doing more PR, doing more events like grassroots events, telling people how this asset class works and how it can benefit them from an investment side, but also making sure they're aware of the risks will be very important for this industry. And it's one of the challenges that we're facing now is what is the fine line between informing people of the risk, but also telling them that okay, it's still a product that you can make money from, hopefully.
Thank you. So both Morten and Natalia mentioned WeChat and Baidu. So next question, I think everyone wants to know, how do you adapt your online and your social strategy to Asia and China and the other markets here?
Well, in terms of online, I think actually Natalia touched on a lot of the things that need to be done, and it's been said so many times before, and I can only stress it again, that complete localization, especially if you're dealing with China, is an absolute must. I've dealt with brokers coming abroad with the approach that we have a global CMS system and it's very scalable, and if we just add simplified Chinese, then we're good to go. And it works very well also in your Shanghai office because you're on your main company VPN and everything's fine. But then if you go out to visit a client, you have a 1-2 minute load speed on the website because some of your developers put a little bit of Google snippet on there or Facebook Connect and so on. So I can't stress enough how important it is to have something that's completely adapted for this market. To the point where I even recommend having a completely built for China website built by local developers in China, because they know not to pull out from Google and these different things. Also on a practical point of view, a lot of brokers come using their same live chat software and these things embedded on